Good. How are you?
Not too bad.
Yeah, having a good day so far?
So far, so good. Yeah, better than yesterday. So,
Well, that's a good thing.
yeah.
Why was yesterday tough for you?
I had my vaccine on Sunday. So yesterday was the revenge of the vaccine day, but I'm fine today. But yeah, yesterday was rough. Overall, it wasn't huge. Like I get it's better than COVID, but it was. I'm not a person who gets sick very often. So the fact that I had a headache all day and felt really tired was, it wiped me out, which I was really surprised at, but it's done now. So.
Did you have a sore arm?
Yes. Yeah. That woke me up in the middle of the night because I guess I rolled over and it was like, oh my God. And then, yeah, I had the chills and I had all the things that you hear about. But like I said, I'm not really used to getting sick either. So.
No, for sure. How has campaign been going so far for you?
Good. So far, so good. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you door knocking?
No, not door knocking yet. I'm on the fence about it. I mean, right now we're at our numbers are so high right now that I think even if I had been door knocking, I probably would have paused it right now. So we'll see. But yeah.
What made you run for this ward position?
During a pandemic, yeah. So this has been something I've been interested in doing for a while. I think I have a skill set that lends itself to being effective on council. But I think more importantly, I like to help. I like to make things better around me. I like to, problem solve and lend ideas to challenges that we might be facing. So to me, council is a great way to do that. It's a great way to support my community. And I think we're kind of ready for change right now. I mean, we've been through so much in the last year collectively as a city, as a world. And I think, there's a lot of bad that comes out of situations like this, but I think there's a lot of opportunity for positive change too. So I think this is a really good time to get involved in change.
Lauren, what is some of the light that you want to bring to your community?
The light. Wow.
As you can tell, I don't know all the lingo yet.
No, you know what? I don't think there's official lingo, but I think what I bring specifically is I'm a pretty positive person. I'm very optimistic, but also very logical and pragmatic. So, I'm not optimistic in the sense that I think, everything will just work itself out and turn out okay. Like you have to put effort into it. You have to go through some challenges to get to the good stuff. So I think for me, what I would really like to see is I'd like to see us working together better as a city. I'd like to see more of a collective vision in the sense that, we're not always going to get along and agree on absolutely everything. But I think if as a city, whether that's community groups, citizens, residents, business owners, if we have a shared vision or a shared outcome we're working towards, I think that makes it a lot easier to get there. And I think right now things are a little bit disjointed for a variety of reasons. I'm not going to blame it all on the current council. So I think, that's something that I'm really hoping to bring. I'm good at bringing people together. I'm good at hearing both sides, understanding both sides. So I think that's really something I would like to see more of, is less of this divisiveness, less of, us versus them, left versus right, and just, let's bring good ideas together. Let's bring good people together and move things forward.
Why do we have this left versus right and this such polarization through our city council? And I mean, this happens everywhere in the world, but
yeah, I wouldn't say it's unique to city council. I think it's indicative of, sort of the time and space we're in right now. Why? I don't know. I think it's easy, right? I think it's always easy when it's us versus them. I think it's easy to have, the other. And I think it's easy to oversimplify things that way. In the beginning anyways, I don't think it solves things. I think it creates more problems. But I think, to be honest, I think it's easy to just sort of draw a line in the sand and, I'm right, you're wrong. Therefore, everything I do is right and everything you do is wrong. It doesn't matter what we're talking about. I think it makes it easier for people to, I don't know, I guess rationalize what's happening around them. And
I think
it makes
everything is amplified now. People are
yeah.
exhausted, they're angry, and a lot of times true colors are coming out and they're just fed up. They don't care what their perception is or what they look like or act like anymore. People are just chaotic. And I think we've seen it, for this past weekend, we've seen it in various spots. Why is this happening? And, it's sad to see our city, our province like this.
No, it definitely is. And I mean, I can't tell you why it's happening any more than you
Mm-hmm.
could tell me why it's happening. But I think you pointed to it though. I think people are tired. They're fed up. The last year of the pandemic, plus on top of that, some of our economic challenges, I think that just has people in a bad spot. I mean, people, are worried about their jobs, or they've lost their jobs, or they've had a reduction in income, or they have family friends that are going through that. And I think when you have uncertainty for a long period of time, um, I don't want to say that it brings out, certain things in people, but I think we don't always make the best choices. I think, our judgment can be clouded. I've gone through stressful times in my life, and, I look back on it and I think, did I handle all the situations the best I could? Probably not. But when you're in the moment of, mental health issues, and you're in the moment of, being under financial stress and things like that, I think people are doing what they can to get through every day. And they don't necessarily have the luxury of, thinking long and hard about what they do and thinking about their impacts of what they do on other people. And I think it's just a tough time for people, and that manifests itself in different ways, for sure.
Mental health's always been important, but now more than ever, it's evidently clear we need to speak on it and we need to act on it. What are some things, if you're chosen as the councillor of your ward, that you'll do in regards to mental health and substance abuse?
Yeah. So obviously there isn't a magic solution to this, where you can wave your wand and make everything better. If there was, I would hope somebody would have done it by now. But I think a lot of people would point and say, well, mental health, that's a provincial issue. But I don't think it is just a provincial issue. I mean, to me, it affects our everyday life, whether it's walking down the street, and seeing people in crisis, or it's our own mental health or that of our family. I think we need to make sure that that day-to-day health of Calgarians is being taken care of. And, so I do like some of the programs that the city is trying to put in place. I think the Calgary Public Library has started offering some mental health services, which I think is fantastic, because they're one of the last, free places you can go and just do things. So I think that makes that sort of a solution available to, everybody when it's in an accessible place like the library. So I think making sure that we're supporting things like that. I think, a lot of the community partners the city has, like the DOPE team, the drop-in center, things like that, working with those organizations to make sure that they have what they need to do the best they can to service people who are struggling with addictions, housing crisis, that sort of thing. And then that being said, I mean, mental health doesn't discriminate, right? I mean, it happens regardless of what your income is and where you are in life. So I think it's making sure that we have resources available and accessible to everybody, regardless of where they are in life, where they are in income level, so that, they're able to sort of stay where they are, and they're able to, like I've had issues before personally where I've made too much money to access subsidized mental health, but my income and what my expenses were didn't allow for me to pay for it out of pocket. So I think it's making sure that people get access to what they need in a reasonable means. Because let's face it, when we're not healthy mentally, as a city, as a community, then that's the same as not being healthy physically, right? Like we're not productive and we're not good to each other. So yeah, I think it's super important.
Being homeless is on the rise, and more people are on the streets of our city. What can we do to mitigate this and reduce what's going on?
I think, again, that's something where there isn't a silver bullet for that one either. I think, again, it's working with those community partners that deal, with immediate homelessness. But again, it's making sure that we have a good strategy for making sure that housing remains affordable in the city, that, there's access to housing for seniors, that we're identifying people who are at risk of becoming homeless and preventing that. Even working with youth and teenagers, making sure that they have access to things that are going to enable them to have an income and have the things that they need to, never be at risk of being homeless. It's a whole ecosystem, and I think you have to make sure that absolutely you're helping the people who are in immediate crisis. But if you're only focused on that and you're not focused on what got them there in the first place, then you're just putting a Band-Aid on it. So I think you do need to do the Band-Aid solution, obviously, because there's people that are hugely at risk and, literally their lives are in danger when they, do not have a place to sleep, especially in the winter when, it gets so cold here. But I think we also need to look at how do we prevent that? So how do we make sure that there is affordable housing? Again, regardless of where you are in life, regardless of where you are in the city. And I think it's making sure that we do have some of those safety nets and stopgaps in place so that in times like we're facing right now, where there's, an economic crisis and, there's this whole pandemic situation happening, that we're ready to help the people that are more affected by that than others, for sure.
Do you believe in the downtown revitalization strategy that was brought to the table last week?
For the most part, I support it. I of course, there's no perfect plan. I think that what I like about it is that there was real consultation with a lot of the property owners downtown. I've spoken to that side. So the real estate working group, I've spoken to a couple of people who are on that, and I've gotten their thoughts on the plan and their thoughts on the whole process. And then I've also spoken to people at the city about it as well. So I've sort of, seen both sides of it. Sure. Is everybody completely happy with it? No. Is it a perfect plan? No. I think, though, it's a really good start. And I think we don't really have the option of waiting for perfect to come along. I think we need to start. We need to build momentum. We need to bring more people in the fold. But again, I think we need to have that collective vision, because unless we have a vision, people aren't going to buy in. And it may have some effectiveness, but in order for it to be truly effective, I think as a city, we need to buy into it, and we need to understand that a strong downtown makes a strong city.
What are your thoughts on the increase of taxes?
All the hard questions. Yeah. No. So obviously taxes are a challenge. They're a challenge for business. They're a challenge for residential. Our tax system is not set up to function well in the current economic state that we're in. I think it was built for a very robust, very healthy, probably above healthy economy. And we relied so heavily on downtown and those downtown buildings having high value. And quite frankly, I mean, a lot of the owners of those buildings, like they didn't, I'm not going to say they didn't care about their taxes, but it wasn't a huge expense for them to pay the taxes that they were paying when things were amazing and awesome and full. And now, we're sort of flip side of that, and it is onerous for people. And we've had to, as, residential property owners, and then, obviously business owners, commercial property owners have had to pick up a lot of slack for that downtown situation. And quite honestly, taxes are going to hold steady or keep going up unless we can fix the model, because the model isn't working. And again, you can throw all the talk at it you want. And I know there's candidates out there that are saying, I'll never raise taxes, and, I'm going to lower taxes or whatever. And I'd love to see how they're going to do that and then maintain the level of services that people expect. Or even just basic level of services. Like right now, the system that we're operating under isn't working to fund our operating expenses. And we need to fix that system. And that really involves working with the province. So do I want taxes to go up? No. Like, who wants taxes to go up? That's, nobody wants taxes to go up. I would ideally like to see taxes hold steady as best they can while we sort out what we pay to the province in terms like what portion the province is taking of property taxes. Is there another way of bringing in revenue streams that isn't also nickel and diming with service fees? Are we managing our money properly at the city too? So are we managing those operating costs properly? And sort of look at it as a whole. You know, I don't want to compare the city to a business because it's not completely like a business. But if you were running a business and your revenue model wasn't working, you would fix it. Like you would figure out, do I need to bring in an alternate stream of revenue? Do I need to find, do I need to diversify what I'm offering and how I do it? Do I need to restructure? So I think there needs to be a little bit of that applied to this situation because, you know, wishing for lower taxes isn't going to do it. We need to figure out how do we fix the system so that it supports us when times are fantastic, but it also supports us when times are not so great and we're going through a pandemic.
What are your thoughts on the city's art installations?
In general, like, or any specific?
In general, like the Blue Ring or whatever's on Stony Trail and 16th.
Right. So I think overall the city's public art program is good. I think what happens is we focus on those big capital projects, which are actually a very small percentage of the public art budget. A lot of the public art are the things like the utility boxes you see that are decorated or some of the murals and stuff like that. That's actually where the bulk of the money or the bulk of the operating costs to run the program go, are those smaller programs, which,
Lauren, just to reiterate, operating costs in terms of paying the artists or paying the people that are organizing the artists, local artists?
The paying of the artists, whether it's local artists or not local artists, that comes out of capital. But running the program, the public art program, is an operating cost.
And the people that are running it are in City Hall, correct?
Correct. Now Calgary Arts Development is overseeing it, and then they also have outside consultants that they're bringing in to oversee the selection process, because I think that was a little bit wonky, the selection process. And I know they've made some tweaks, and I will be honest, I'm not familiar with all the tweaks they've made. That said, I think we need to look at how much we're spending on some of those bigger projects. I know if it's a certain amount of the overall project, like the road or the bridge that they're building or whatever, is over a certain amount, it's 0.5% of the budget or something. And then if it's under an amount, it's 1%, which isn't a lot in the realm of things, but
Are you for the Blue Ring? Like, were you for it? Did you appreciate it? Or the iron in the rocks, the iron rods?
The rocks, I get less. The thing I like about the Blue Ring, I don't know why I have a soft spot for the Blue Ring. And that doesn't necessarily reflect like how I feel about money being spent on art, but I kind of like it because every time I come back from the airport, I see it and I give it a little wave. But also what I like about the Blue Ring is it actually is functional. Like it is attached to the electrical system. It is an actual light. Whereas you look at and it is accessible from the sense that it's along the pathway system there. Now that area is getting more built up, like there's a road that goes by, which is why that project was funded. But then if you look at the Beaufort Towers, I think they're called, it's literally in between like major roadways that you could never access. Like you can't touch that one. You can't stand there and look at it beside there. So I kind of wonder, is there a way of taking some of those bigger...
Alberta's got the greatest tradeswomen in pipe fitting, welding.
Yep.
Did we need to spend all that money internationally if somebody really needed a Blue Ring? We couldn't have done it in-house. We couldn't have given Calgarians jobs where they spend it here in our city rather than, I don't know, wherever it's from?
So, yes. But like with the Blue Ring, with even Beaufort, whatever that one is, 90% of that is spent on local people. So I think it's that 90% 10% goes to the artists, and then 90% goes to local designers, welders, as you said. There's a couple of companies here that are 100%, they do public art, not necessarily public art that is city funded, but then when developers do, like when you see like the different sculptures and that in new communities, that sort of thing. So 90% of that are local if not to Calgary, then to Alberta companies that are providing the materials, they're providing the engineering that goes behind it. They're making sure that it's hooked up properly to electricity if that's a thing that the particular piece needs. So 10% is going to the artist, but the remaining part does stay in Calgary for those big pieces. So I think there's some misconceptions there that, we're putting all this money out internationally, where 10% goes to the artist who may not necessarily even be international. Like some of those pieces, the high profile pieces have been, but there's nothing stopping Calgarians or people from Alberta or anywhere in Canada from also applying to have those big pieces as well.
Yeah, but those bids don't get chosen locally. That's the problem. The local artists have spoken and they've said, we don't get chosen. And if we do, we're getting not $480,000 for a piece. For our mural, we're getting, I don't know, $1,000, $1,500.
Yeah, because they're in those other programs that are public art. So yeah, for sure. But
it doesn't make sense, in my opinion. I mean, it's not fair. Yeah.
It does, yeah. And I would like to understand. I mean, obviously, you and I weren't part of the decision-making process, so
of course, yeah. I'm happy that we're talking about this to open the conversation and say, hey, where do we want our city's future? It's not. Yeah. It's not about yesterday. I mean, just don't want to make those same mistakes again.
No, exactly. And I think you kind of have to understand how it came to be this way, and then what can we do differently. And, I've heard arguments as to why it is the way it is, which is great. I'm happy to understand that. But I think it would be super awesome if we could have more representation for those large pieces. These smaller pieces throughout the city are 100% Alberta or Calgarian, which is great. But what is preventing them from gaining access to those projects that are bigger? Is it, lack of experience in those larger mediums, because they're very often very physically large things? Is it access to, capital to make the presentation, the pitch in the first place? I don't know what their barriers are. So I think understanding those barriers would be huge to at least making our local artists more competitive in those situations.
What are your thoughts on the city's stall on the Green Line or the arena?
That's a heavy sigh there. So I'll start with the Green Line. I'm supportive of the Green Line in general. I'm concerned about, the fact that we've already had cost overruns and we haven't even put a shovel into the ground. That's concerning. I do think it's important that we invest in transit now rather than when the city is more built up. I've lived in cities where, large scale transit like that has been an afterthought. Like Toronto's an example. York University didn't have access to a train until 2 years ago, and they talked about it for 40 years. That's crazy. And if they had done it even 30 years ago, it would have been a tenth of the cost kind of thing, right? And with less disruption to existing residents and businesses and stuff like that. So I think it's important that we do it. I'm a firm believer that you can invest, not spend. There's a difference. You can invest in projects and have, and make things be on time, on budget, and stick to it, and have a good return on investment. Where we run into issues is when you have spent a whole lot of money and you have nothing to show for it yet. And people keep changing their minds so much that the routes change and all that sort of stuff. And I think that really affects engagement and affects people's willingness to support the projects, which I think is problematic. The arena, I have a little less clarity on. I know investing in things like that can be good in terms of, tourism dollars and just creating a vibrant entertainment district and all that sort of stuff downtown. I do still struggle with the amount of support the city is putting in, versus private dollars being invested. And again, it's another example of, oh, wait, it's going to cost more than we thought. And that seems to happen more often than not now. And I struggle with that because, there's already a distrust, I think, on some level with what the city does. And so when you repeatedly are coming back saying, oh, wait, this is actually going to cost more than we thought it did, how does that happen? Why are there always so many surprises? Are we just that bad at budgeting out projects ahead of time? Or where's the disconnect there? Again, it's understanding that process, right? But I do think it's important to invest in long-term projects like that, but that's not a blank check to do whatever you want at whatever cost. Does that make sense?
Are you a believer in supporting small businesses?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd be really surprised if someone said no to that, but no,
Well, you'll be surprised to some of the answers I've heard and that are currently out there on YouTube from some of the other councillors where, they think small businesses are just a little too much and they think they know it all and they should maybe leave a little more to the city council and not. And I said, I don't know if that's a great answer right there right now.
Well, I like to sometimes look at it this way. Every medium-sized business was once a small business, and every large business that we, let's face it, all these larger businesses that we're wanting to attract to Calgary, they were at one point small businesses too. And I think, the business community in Calgary, it is yet again another ecosystem, and you need to make sure that all areas of that are strong. Does that mean subsidizing certain businesses that, aren't making smart choices? And not every business is going to survive. And I'm 100%, aware of that. But I think, our city, so many of our businesses are small and medium-sized businesses. So I don't know how you can not support small businesses when essentially they are the backbone of who we are. I mean, we're so entrepreneurial as a city too. I think this is a great city to come and have an idea and turn it into something profitable. And I think we need to, and I think Calgary, that's something Calgary is actually known for outside of Calgary. So I think we need to maintain that. I mean, I think that is a part of who we are. And I think, a lot of the small businesses like restaurants, coffee shops, little, butcher stores, all that sort of thing, they're what make little communities great. I mean, if you're able to walk to, in normal times, a nice little restaurant around the corner or a coffee shop or something like that makes your neighborhood better. That makes it a better place to live. That makes it more desirable for people to move to. So I think they're so important for so many reasons. They're important to the culture of our city. They're important to the economy of our city. And, they're employing our neighbors, our friends, our family. So 100%. I mean, I don't know. It's an odd thing that we have to somehow, say that small business doesn't matter because I don't know. It's interesting to me. I think it's super important to support them because they're that pipeline. They will eventually become, if they want to, a medium-sized business or a large business, and they employ people. So it doesn't matter if you employ 2 people or if you employ, 50 people. I think you still matter. You're still providing a service to the community.
What is something that you bring that your competitors don't?
Right now, I have a lot of competitors. There's six other people besides me now, I think. But so, I'm sure.
I wonder if your award has the highest, actually.
Does it really? That doesn't surprise me, actually. Usually Ward 10, by the end of it, Ward 10 will probably have more because for whatever reason, there always seems to be a lot of people in Ward 10. But I'm sure there's a lot of overlap between what I offer and what, some of the other candidates offer. But I think for me, I have a really good balance of experience with, working in not-for-profits, but I've also worked a lot in the corporate world. And I've worked with city partners, and I've worked with, industries that heavily interface with the city. So I've got a lot of experience in a lot of different areas, which from what I've seen from my competitors, they don't seem to have that same cross section. And I think with my experience sort of coupled with my personality of being able to see both sides and really wanting to understand how things work, I'm kind of nerdy that way. I think I've got a really good idea of the different perspectives of a lot of the different stakeholders in the city. And I think when you come into something, having some understanding of how people work and what's important to them, you're already a step ahead, right? Because you're not having to go and fully familiarize yourself with how a certain industry works or how a certain policy affects a certain industry or a certain type of business. And because I have had experience, sitting on, a city related board and working at a city partner, I also know how those partnership arrangements work. So there's a lot of back end that's enabled me to see what's working well and also enabled me to see where things could maybe be a bit improved.
Thank you for that, Lauren. What are your thoughts on, the city's guidebook tomorrow? Do you think we should have waited, or should we have pushed this through?
Okay. The guidebook has a lot of good. Right now, there's over 250 different planning policies that are floating around that govern what we do in the city. And that's really just in the established areas, which is mostly what this guidebook applies to. So when you have that many policies floating around, you already have a lot of issues. You already have a lot of conflict. You have, honestly, you could, present a project in the Southwest that looks exactly the same as a project in the Northwest, and it will be viewed differently because you have different planners interpreting different policies in different ways. And I think what a lot of communities want, what developers want, what businesses want is a degree of predictability and certainty where they know if I do A, B, and C, then this is likely what's going to happen. And is this good for me? Is this good for our community? Yes. Okay, then let's go ahead. But I think right now with the existing, huge number of policies, it's so hard for people to understand, and it's so hard to have that certainty because there's so much left. There's almost too much policy so that it's ineffective, right? It conflicts with each other. So one of the guidebook's goal was to sort of reduce a lot of that, and make things, give a little bit more certainty and help people understand a little bit more like what is possible and what is not possible in a given area. Where I think the guidebook has obviously been challenged is in the engagement across the city with different community groups. And my concern with that is that, again, you're not going to find something that everybody's going to love. And there's always going to be groups that are completely against something, and there's always going to be groups that are completely in favor of it. I think when you have this much concern over engagement, especially in certain areas, you're not setting the program up to succeed, because even if it's pushed through or even if it's delayed, you still haven't addressed that engagement concern. And if you don't have buy-in, we all know what happens when you don't have buy-in with something, right? You're constantly fighting that lack of buy-in as you move forward, even if you do move forward. And then if you don't move forward, I think if we don't move forward, we're not in a better place now because there isn't certainty. There's nothing protecting the things that people want to protect. We're not better off without the guidebook. And the guidebook only really has teeth if there's a local area plan, which I don't think everybody fully understands, which in my particular ward, there's very few areas that have a local area plan. So it wouldn't even apply to a lot of Ward 11 yet. But I think the engagement is something that's really problematic, and I really would like to see that addressed. If that means we have to delay it, okay. Do I want to see the whole thing scrapped? No. I would like to see some changes made based on what some of those concerned communities have to say. But yeah, the engagement thing is bothering me. I know that they did do a really good job in certain areas of engaging, but I think they really missed the mark in other areas. And I think as a city, and not just, big C city, but I think in general, we need to do a better job of engaging each other when we want to make changes to a community. So,
Lauren, to end this off, what would you like to tell community members and Calgarians as a whole as why they should vote you?
Well, I think that they should vote for me because I bring a lot of passion to what I do. I'm a very hard worker. I learn very quickly. So if there's something I don't know, give me 5 minutes and I'll probably have a decent understanding of it. I like to take a logical approach. I really like to listen to what people have to say. I'm honest, I'm transparent, maybe too much so sometimes, but I'm not going to tell you things just because you want to hear them. Things are not black and white, and I fully appreciate that, or very few things in life are black and white. And I think that's really what I bring, is I bring a very logical, pragmatic approach to things. And I think I really have the power of persuasion. I can get people to, come on board and be engaged with the process so that we're working together and not working against each other.
If we do a virtual debate, would you be interested in being a part of it for your ward?
Sure.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thank you again for today, Lauren. I appreciate your time.
No worries.